do not remember any favorites now. I'd have to think long on that, I think.
Okay. And what would you say your favorite place is? You've traveled a lot?
We've traveled some, yes. I guess this is due to my divorced parents. My favorite place is home, wherever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that is my favorite place. I mean,
Okay.
if this house or that house, if it's my home, that's it.
And that feeling of these are your things and this is a safe, okay.
Yes.
Very cool. On your vacations, is there a vacation spot that stands out as being maybe one of your favorite vacation spots?
Well, my favorite vacation spot is North Carolina.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've had a chance to go there and it was very, very nice because it was just very relaxing.
Right.
It's what you want it to be, because if you want it to be crazy, then you get together with your friends and make it that. But if you want to relax, it's a great spot to just.
Right. But we've been to nice places. I mean, all states have beautiful places.
Sure, absolutely.
It's been nice.
And you've had a chance to travel abroad a lot?
Yes. Mm-hmm. I've been to Rome more than any other place.
And would you say you like Rome?
No, I like going to the Vatican.
Oh, okay, yeah. And maybe talk about that a little bit, because when I read through the notes, there was, and I don't know who made the note. It could have been Chip, it could have been Tom, about you would, was it sit in a chair and do rosary, and he would come and do it with you, and that was something that he remembers fondly.
When you are a parent, you try different things that you read about that you think should happen. So I've tried different things on my children. Mm-hmm. And one was to say a rosary every night. Mm-hmm. So we did that for a while. They probably haven't said a rosary since. So I don't know. And I really didn't, I sat in a certain chair just to get away from the kids in my bedroom. Mm-hmm. But I really tried to talk to each child each night for about 15 minutes alone. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's what he's talking about, because I really tried to move away when I was saying my prayers.
Okay. And what is a rosary? Is a rosary a prayer, or is it a chant, or?
Well, it's a prayer. It's
okay.
the same prayer repeated 10 times, a Hail Mary
mm-hmm.
and an Our Father.
Okay.
And
Are there multiple ones you can choose from, or is there one, and everybody says it?
It's the same prayer.
Okay.
You start with Our Father. It's a decade. You start with My Father and 10 Hail Marys, and My Father and 10 Hail Marys. You do that for 5 times.
Okay. And then that's the way you kind of end your day to kind of have a connection.
Well, I say a rosary every day, and usually I get around to it in the evening, yes. But I think it would be better if I did it in the morning. My mind wouldn't wander as much.
Okay. So when you say your mind wouldn't wander, what do you focus on when you do that? I didn't grow up Catholic, so I don't totally get.
But when you're saying a prayer, you should focus on what you're asking, or what you're thinking, or what Jesus or the Blessed Mother, to whomever you're praying. Mm-hmm. But it's very easy for the mind to wander. But we have a wonderful priest here, a new priest at our parish. And he says, then when you go back, that's Jesus pulling you back. So that takes care of your mind wandering.
Nice. And so then you would do your rosary, and then you would spend a little time with each child.
Yes.
Would you more or less, would it be something where you talked about, like, well, what did you do today? What did you learn today?
I'd go and sit on their beds with them, and I would just, what happened today, what's going on. And so, of course, with the kids, there's usually a crisis, something terrible happened today. That girl sat beside me or something, mm-hmm. But it was fun hearing their talks.
That's great. When you guys first, you had John first, then Steve, then Tom, then Chip. Mm-hmm. And what's the age range from John to Chip?
Well, Tom was 4.5, I think, when Chip was born.
Okay.
And Tom and Steve were about 14 months apart.
Okay.
And I guess it was about 16 months between John and Stephen.
Oh, good. So they all have a fairly close age.
Yeah, 3 of them do.
Nice. And then when you guys, I would say, what houses did you live in when you had the kids? Because I always hear my parents talk about an apartment that they started off in, and then there's this first little house. And
well, Tony and I started off in an apartment, Falls Church area, Falls Church address.
Mm-hmm.
And then about weeks before John was born, we moved into a house in Vienna.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where all of our children were born,
Okay.
that house. And then when Chip was months old, we moved to another house with a Vienna address, and that's where all the children grew up.
Okay, is that the house that I would have seen last? Because I remember we moved some stuff out of maybe your basement to Tom's.
No, that was in Overton.
Okay, so that's a different.
That was a different house. We
Okay.
lived there after, well, Chip was still in college when we moved there, but the others had graduated.
Okay. So that first house where all the kids were born, what was that house like?
Where all the kids were born.
Yeah, you said that first house was.
It was it was on one floor, and we were in a cul-de-sac.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever it snowed, we could sled ride.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, whenever you sled ride in my house, you had hot chocolate with marshmallow afterwards.
It's the law.
That's part of it. And it was nice that, of course, the world is so different now. There was a park that we could see from the living room.
Mm-hmm.
And when when Steve and Tom would be napping in the afternoon, I would let dear little John go over to that park. I stood there and watched him. I mean, I could see him on the swing set and everything, but now I think about, my Lord, they could have picked him up before I'd gotten to him, he would have been long gone.
Yeah.
But that never entered our mind then.
Mhm.
I could see him, he was not hurt, no one was around him.
Mm-hmm.
And that was so horrible when I think about that today.
Yeah. I know even for myself, because now my friends all have kids and my brother has kids, and I think about the way we grew up, and it would be like we'd get on our bikes and we'd go out for adventures. We'd
Yes.
ride up to the top of the street, and
Yes.
we would go fishing in this little, it was actually kind of like a reservoir. I couldn't imagine letting my kids do. We had dirt bikes that we would go ride,
Oh,
and
really?
I couldn't imagine.
Well, my kids could ride anywhere except they could not cross 123.
Mm-hmm.
And there was, I think, 29. They were not allowed to cross Route 29.
Mm-hmm.
But they could ride anywhere else,
Okay.
I think.
And so that was the first house, and then was that how? Did the kids have their own rooms, or were
No,
there?
they all had, well, no, I guess they did. They had to share rooms. We had 4 bedrooms
Mhm.
in the first house, but then in the second house, we had 5 bedrooms in, but in the end, John and, I don't know sure if it's, I think John had a bedroom by himself, and
Mhm.
Steve had a bedroom by himself, and I think Tom and Chip shared a bedroom.
Okay.
I believe that's how it was.
Because Tom and Chip were the youngest too.
Yes,
Okay.
but I don't think Steve would allow anyone to sleep in the room with him. I think that's the reason. And they were all too messy. And we felt John was the oldest,
Mhm.
so he had a room of his own.
Okay.
So I don't think it was due to age, it was just personality thing.
Okay. Now, and I'm sorry because I'm jumping a little bit. We talked about your phone what plugged in. Do you remember as technology started to come out, some of your first? Like, do you remember when your first phone that you actually dialed versus having to have an operator patch?
Yes, in high school,
Mm-hmm.
we had the dial,
Okay.
yes.
Now, would that be in multiple rooms, or was there one phone in the house?
Oh, of course.
The one phone.
I never lived in a house until I got married with 2 phones.
Okay. How about television? Do you remember getting your first television?
My stepfather bought a television before I graduated from high school.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I went on, and we liked it, it was the Lucy program and Ed Sullivan,
Uh-huh.
and we would watch it as a family. And then when I went, no, it was after college, the first year I worked after school, I lived in Baltimore.
Oh, okay.
And he felt so,
What part of Baltimore did you live in?
right on the corner of Cathedral and, I left, the bus terminal was there, and the farm, the market, the huge market. I was not close to it, but I mean, Cathedral and
Is that Charles?
Cathedral and whatever street the bus was. Charles, man. No, it wasn't Charles. I don't remember. But
Okay.
It was Cathedral. My address was Cathedral.
Okay. I know Cathedral Street, yeah.
Okay, well, there used to be a bus terminal a block away on the other street.
Okay. Because I know we have a Penn Station in Baltimore now. We have the train station
Yeah,
in
but that was
Baltimore.
there then, but I wasn't near that.
Not near that. I don't know where the bus terminal would be then.
Well, if you stayed on that street, you ended up in, what's the name of the big market? Market. You know, they
Like the
have,
Hollis Market or?
no. But it used to be a farmer's market, but now
Okay.
it's a big business. I mean,
Okay.
it's buildings now.
Sure.
But I don't remember the name of the street.
I'm sorry, I interrupted and I forgot. We talked about TVs. You said you went to Baltimore?
I worked in Baltimore, and my stepfather felt guilty. They were watching TV, so he bought me a TV for my first year of work.
Oh, very, very
And it was
cool.
huge. It was little but huge.
Okay. The screen was small, but the box
Yeah,
was big with all the
yes,
tubes
and my poor
and.
father, we lived in the attic. This teacher and I shared an apartment in an attic.
Mhm.
And my poor father carried that up all the steps.
It was your first job, was this as a librarian at a
Yes,
school or a
uh-huh.
college or?
At a junior high school.
A junior high school, okay. Do you remember what high school it was?
Elk Ridge.
Okay. And then, before the TV, do you remember, because I was talking to Mr. DePasquale, sitting around the radio and listening to programs on the
I
radio?
did that at my grandparents' house. So we listened to Gabriel Heater.
She's a little bit younger than I am,
Okay.
just a little bit, not much, not
When you were in my
age-wise, not mental-wise.
You go for the younger ladies?
Oh,
We got a
I'm
good
star
close-up
now.
though.
I'm a star now, but, and there was a funny show on too that we used to laugh, but I don't remember on radio.
Okay. Now, so you were the first to graduate college in your family. You and the cousin of your dad's brother's son.
Yes, that's correct.
How difficult was it for a girl at that time to actually get into college? Like, did they
Oh.
look at you like you were crazy for wanting to go to college, or?
No, because it was very difficult to get into like law school or medical
Mhm.
school and
Okay.
things like that, but not college.
Okay.
And really, if you had the money to go, that was the
Okay.
thing. And I started working when I was in sophomore in high school on Saturdays and Friday nights in the
Mhm.
department store. I started saving money to go to school. It was so expensive. I think it was $30 a semester.
Okay. Excuse me. Sorry, my allergies. So do you remember when you started college?
Sure, the fall of '49.
The fall of '49? And I'm assuming you did the full 4 years?
Yes.
Okay. And where was the college was in Pennsylvania?
No,
No,
it was
in West Virginia.
Shepherdstown.
Shepherdstown, West Virginia. Okay.
And then when my second boy left for college, I started my master's.
So you have a master's degree as well. And where did you get your master's? Here.
James Madison, off
Fantastic.
campus.
Okay.
I only had to take one class on campus.
Okay. So when you got out of college, what was your first job that you had out of college?
A full-time job was at the librarian in a junior high school
In
Elk Ridge,
Baltimore.
Maryland.
Okay. And then how long were you there for?
2 years.
For 2 years?
And I moved to Falls, because, well, I knew of Falls Church, as I told you, we stopped and went through the school one
Mhm.
year. And so there was a vacancy at Falls Church, and so I came here.
Okay. And actually, if you don't, because we talked about that during lunch when the cameras weren't on, you said you guys used to drive down, like this would be like an outing that you and your mom would
Yes, we often went to the zoo.
do? Okay.
That was
The National Zoo?
yes.
Okay.
And I bought my prom dress here. And there was an English teacher in high school, and he liked Washington, and of course today it would be so different. Every so often, he'd rent a bus, and a group of students would go to Washington.
Okay.
And once we got to Washington, we never saw that teacher again until we were back on the bus. So we would roam all over the city, ride the trolley car.
Oh, wow.
But times were different then. Of course,
Yeah.
my parents were really unaware. I'm sure they thought Mr. Knight was with us the whole time.
Sure,
And we never told our parents that we were on our own.
sure.
And so it was fun. We knew lots about Washington.
Okay. And so you did a trip with your mom. Did you say that there was an English teacher with you? Because I remember part of your story was you had taken a trip here and you wanted to see the school because the school was pretty and your mom didn't want to stop. but
Well,
maybe
my
you-
mom was always the chauffeur. And one of the teachers from college, I don't know which class she taught, and the 3 students who graduated came down to visit the Library of Congress.
Mhm,
And so we came down 7 from West Virginia.
mhm.
And we saw this beautiful new school. And I said, oh, let's go look at the library. And my mother said, oh, do you want to? I said, oh, yes. So we went in and asked if we could visit the school. And a young man was our host and took us all over the school. And it was very exciting.
Mhm.
It was very new. It was probably the first year
Okay.
there, or maybe the second year. And so I always wanted to work in that school. So it took me 2 years to get there, but I did get there.
Okay. And how long did you work in that school for?
30 years.
And so that's the school you met Mr. DePasquale in?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes, yes.
And so now he was teaching math classes and would come in and do you kind of remember how you met? Like how you guys actually interacted in there or like how he introduced himself?
Well, there were not many single people on the staff,
Mm-hmm.
and it just happened.
Sure.
I don't know. I mean, I saw him every day at lunch.
Okay.
We had lunch at the same time, and he was quite impressed with himself, and he was going to talk and everything. So, and it was fun.
Very nice. I'm just gonna try to go through. I know one of the things that they're looking to get is remembering that this is for the grandkids to watch at some point. What advice would you give them, thinking of them in a few years?